Okay, now you're good.
Okay, so Daf Vav Amar Aleph Mishnah. Amachanis Ma'os. The person is gathering, rather than just giving one coin, he's gathering penny by penny to collect Machzis HaShekel. V'Amar Hare Elu L'Shikli. He said, this is going to be for my shekel. Beishamai Oimrim Moisara Nedava. Let's say he wasn't keeping track, and he ended up counting out more money than he needs for Machzis HaShekel. What happens to the extra money? So according to Beis Shammai, the extra money should go to buy Nedavas, donative korbanos. Which is usually, they brought olos, which were offered on the Mizbech when it wasn't occupied. Beisil says no, he never had in mind to be magdish more than a machzis shekel, so the remainder is chulin.
Did we say that Machzis Shekel, a woman could bring that also or not? Didn't we learn before that a woman could bring Machzis Shekel too?
Based on what?
No, that she can contribute Machzis Shekel.
She's not obligated, but she can.
Yes, she can, but she's not obligated.
I know, but the question, doesn't Machzis Shekel represent a census for the Bnei Yisrael?
That's why she's not obligated to do it.
No, but if she does it, it throws off the schedule. They count it and they see there's more Machzis Shekel than actually 20 men are for 2060.
Once there's a halacha of Machzis shekel, has nothing to do with the count. The
So,
original Machzis shekel had to do with the count.
I see. I see.
Now that we give Machzis shekel, the shekel goes to buy the korbanei tzibur.
I understand, but doesn't use for count, so we don't count it anymore. We don't count the Bnei Yisrael then.
No.
Okay, yeah, okay.
However, if instead of saying Hare Elu L'Shikli, he says Sha'avi Mehen Shikli. Here's money, I'm going to add money, and I'm going to bring from these my shekel. So here's Shavin Shamoyser Chulin. So everybody, even Beis Shammai, will agree that the extra money here is Chulin. Because what's he's saying is, I'm collecting money here that from this money I will bring my shekel, my Machzis shekel. Implies that the extra is not holy. Now, let's say he does the same maneuver, counting out money, but he says, Eilu lechatasi. This is to buy my korban chatas. So Shavin Shamoyser Nedava. Here even Beis Hillel agrees to Beis Shammai that the extra money has to go to buy olos for Kitzah Mizbeach. However, but if he's counting out and he says, Sha'avi mehen chatas, I'm going to bring from this money my chatas, so it doesn't mean all the money. Shavin Shamoyser Chulin. So here even Beis Shammai agrees that the excess money is chulin. Rab Shimon, ma ben shkolim l'chatas. By a chatas, Beis Hillel said that any leftover money is chulin, but by shekel. But by chatas, he said it's hegdish. What's the difference? Ma ben shkolim l'chatas, ela shel shkolim yesh lem kitzva. Shkolim has a set value. Machzis shekel. But chatas ain't lo kitzva. A chatas, you could bring the most expensive animal you want. There's no limit. Therefore, it's possible as he's collecting money, gathering money to buy it, maybe he wanted to buy a very expensive one. However, Rabbi Yehuda argues, Af l'shkolim elem kitzva. There's really no set value to the shkolim because it has fluctuated over historical periods. When they came back from Bavel, so the dark cone was from Mede. The Medes were the ones, the Persians and the Medes. So the dark cone was like a golden, which was worth more than the Torah shekel. And then the Chazru Lishkol Sloim. Later on, they used a Sloim, which was equal to 1 shekel. Chazru Lishkol Tvoim, which was even worth less, but it was worth a half shekel. Bikshu Lishkol Dinarim, V'lo Kiblu Man. Then they wanted to offer a dinner, which is only a quarter shekel, that they didn't allow because it has to be at least the half shekel of when the Torah said it was a half shekel. But basically, what Rabbi Yehuda is showing here is that there's no set value to shekel either. It fluctuates based on the currency. On Rab Shimon, based on this, the Ramah says Bizman Hazeh, you should also give half of the current currency for tzedakah. Because based on this, based on this Rabbi Yehuda, it seems that what the current currency is that's what you should bring a half of. When I was growing up in Los Angeles, the minhag was to go to the bank and get a 50-cent piece. It was following this Ramah. My Rebbeim always told me they're makpid to give, and then because they weren't sure what the value was, they would do 3 of them. Because they said $1.50 is what the value is, but they wanted it to be a half a coin. So I remember John F. Kennedy, was that the silver dollar? There was a half dollar. Maybe that was the silver dollar.
I have one. I'll tell you in a second.
Huh?
I have a few. I
think that was a fifth. Was it a 50?
No, half a dollar.
Yeah, it was a 50. Then they got rid of that. Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Kennedy in it.
It's Kennedy, and so it was a 50-cent piece, correct? Not a dollar.
No, it's
No,
a
not
50
$1,
cent. 50 cents.
Okay. Did anybody else have that minute? That's what we used to do.
Yeah, and we had it till today. We have a half. They put them in three coins they tape together. When you want to go like for Purim or something like that, that's what you give.
But I don't know why. I'm not sure why that's taped. I don't know why they do 3. Could be because they've calculated the value of 50 cents is not worth what the Torah was referring to in Machzis or shekel.
Probably, yeah.
Okay. On Rab Shimon, Afal Pichein, Yad Kula Shavet. Yeah, but he says everyone gives the same amount. Whatever Rab Shimon argues to Rabbi Yehuda, whatever the amount is, every person gives exactly the same amount. So that's what it means, ein kitzvah. While by a chatas, zeh may be v'self, zeh may be b'shtayim, zeh may be b'shalosh. When you bring a korban chatas, each person brings according to how he can afford it. Some bring an animal worth more, some bring an animal worth less. So the Gemara says, "Amachanes Rabbi Yosef Shem Lozer Ma Pligin." Where does machlokas b'sham b'sil b'machanes proitrois? When you're counting small coins, that it's going to add up to the Machzis shekel. But one day he adds 1 coin, next day he adds another coin, next day he adds another coin. So, and then eventually it ends up having 20 coins more than the Machzis shekel. So Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel argue. Beis Hillel says, listen, you never intended to be makdish more than a Machzis shekel. So the extra coins are chulin. According to Beis Shammai, you can be magdish even in error, and therefore he holds that it becomes hegdish. However, if he takes a whole bunch of coins and he says, "Ba'omer elul shikli," then there, even Beis Hillel will agree that the extra coinage above the value of the Machzis shekel will have to go for a nedava, for a korban oila. Now, Rav Chiya, Rav Beiba, B'Shem Rav Elazar, Ma Pligin, they say the same thing. That what is the machlokas? The mechanes proitres. When they count out coins as they grow. Okay. Rav Chiya, Masnis, Messiah, Rav Bibi, that our Mishnah is going to support what Rav Bibi said. It's not. On Rav Shimon. What did Rav Shimon respond to Rav Yehuda? Ma ben shkom l'chates, ela shashkom yesh len kitzvah, has a set value. L'chates elen kitzvah. Now, manan kayomin. So what is the case? Imbo oimer. What is the exact case that you're talking about? Imbo oimer she'avi mehen shikli. That I'm going to bring from these coins my shekel. We already said, since he's saying not all these coins are going to go for it, it's just I'm going to bring the amount of the Machzis shekel from these coins. We already said kolam moedish shamois chulin. There, everyone agreed that the extra money is chulin. And imbo oimer she'avi mehen chatasi. The same thing we said in the Mishnah. If I'm gathering money, and eventually I say, I'm going to bring from this money my chatas, again, also, it implies it's not the whole amount of money, and then therefore if it's extra, it'll go in the dove. It's only the amount that the korban is worth. So where do you see that it's machloikes? Obviously the case is it's not the case. It's a case where they say not sha'avi mehen shikli, but you point to the amount of coins that are there and you say these are for my shkol. So since shkol ma'yidei shekitvasim in Torah, since the Torah gives a set value, mois bois from chulin, you never intended to be magish more than the value. But chatis, ayidei she'en kitvasim in Torah, but an animal that the Torah didn't set a set value. How much should the animal be worth that you bring korban chatas from? So then moisrin nedava. There, everybody agrees that the value of the coinage above and beyond the value of the korban would also have to go in the nedava. What did Rabbi Yossi? How did he learn in the name of Rabbi Eliezer? He learned it, like we said, where you count out smaller coins until you got to a machzor shekel, then you had leftover. But how can Rabbi Yossi learn like that? It says moiser shkolin chulin. The extra coins beyond the value of the shekel is chulin. So, and it
That's what Hillel
so
said.
Osir law. So he also explained b'machanis proitros u'kbeis that it's a goyin of beis, like we said, not like beis Shammai, and he's counting out the coins, and he never intended that beyond the value of the machzor shekel it should be hegdish. Okay. So new case, hamafri shiklo. Person sets aside money. The sover shuchayev. He thought that he had to bring the machzor shekel. V'nimtza she'eino chayev. And let's say it turns out that he's not chayev. For example, he's got a partner, whatever the Pturim are, or that he already gave it. So he was mafresh in error. So the din is loy kodash. That money is not sanctified because it doesn't become hegdish by mistake. A mafresh shnayim. Person separated 2 coins. The sover shu chayiv shnayim. Because he thought he's chayiv to bring 2, maybe last year's and this year's. He's really only chayiv 1. Also, asheni ma'at of it. What does he do with the second one that was put aside by mistake? Nishma min hada. The answer is from the following: Hifrish chatos of a chayiv. A person thought that he had committed an aveira like eating dam or eating chaylev b'shogeg, and he thought he was chayiv to bring a korban chat. Turns out he was not chayiv. Let's say did it b'mezid, or he didn't really eat dam. B'nimtza she'eino chayiv. So, what's the status of the animal? Loy kidsha. A person who makes a hegdish designation in error, and he was never obligated to bring the korban in the first place, the animal does not become sanctified. However, hifri shtayim. He thought that he had eaten chaylev and dam, which would require him to bring 2 chatos. The sor shechayv shtayim, the nimtza shechayv la'achas. Turns out he was chayv for dam, but not for chaylev. What happens to the other animal? Oyser shniya ma'ad avidlo. What happens to the second one? Elaroya. There, when you separated another animal as a chatis, you have to let it graze in the field until it gets a mum. But it does have, it did get some hegdish. So if you set aside shkolim, right? We said if you set aside 2 shkolim and thinking that you were chayiv 2, you only chayiv 1, the Gemara wants to make an analogy to the case of this 2 chatises, where at least if you're telling us that the animal has to go out and graze until it gets a mum, it had some hegdish. So by the case of the shkolim, it should go in the dova. However, the Gemara doesn't accept that. by the shkolim, you said elu l'shikli. So when you collect money for shkolim, the extra is always chulin, as opposed to when you collect it for a chatas, where the extra would be considered partly hegdish, and that's why it has to graze. Rabbi Yehuda Oimer, their coin is dinorim. A dark coin is a dinner made out of gold. Chazru lishkol shloim. Later on, instead of giving a half of a dark coin, they gave a half of a sela, kishmuah. And then chazru lishkol tvoin. Then later on, they used a teva coin, which is palge shloim, which is half of a sela. But bikshu lishkol dinorim, that was too small. Karotin, which is really half of that, which is just a quarter of a sela, which is just not the same value as what the Torah says. So the Gemara says, "Lo kiblu alein." Chachamim did not accept the dinner. Now, why the Chachamim rejected? Because it says in Nehemiah, "Ve'madnu aleinu mitzvos lo se shlishis hashekel b'shana lavodas beis Elokim." We give a third of a shekel, which was a third of this dark cone. Used to be that they would do it a half a shekel, but they thought that eventually the coin wouldn't be the same value. So they set a minimum, which was a third per year. In fact, from here, you have to donate machzis shekel, or you have to give charity 3 times a year. And you don't make a collection from the tzibur more than 3 times a year. Not only that, but they had 3 baskets that they put in the Beis Hamikdash to collect the money. They dumped into boxes. And in the end, they would empty out these rooms 3 times a year. From the pasuk of Shalish, see, it says Zayitnu, this shall you give. Anyone who is counted, they were counting, they thought that Moshe Rabbeinu was supposed to come down at noontime, and they were off by 6 hours. So since they sinned half the day, Yitnu Machzis Hashem. They sinned in the 6th hour of the day, not in half the day, but the 6th hour. Yitnu Machzis Shekel the Ovad Shisa Garmesim. At that time, the garmes were 6 garmesim, which were worth a half a shekel. Rav Yeshua ben Rav Nechemi b'Shem Rav Yochanan ben Zakli Fisha Arval Aser Sadibros. Because when you worship Avodah Zarah, it's like you violate the whole Torah. So it's like they violated the whole Asara Dibros. So they had to give 10 geira because the shekel was 20 geira. A stream geira yeh shekel, says the pasuk. So by giving 10 geira, which is half a shekel, it's connected the 10 asar sadibros that the person violated by worshiping Avodah Zarah. Rav Bracha, Rav Levi, Rav Shimon Lakish, Machru B'chor Shel Rachel B'Esrim Kesef. The brothers of Yosef sold him for 20 kesef. So when you do Pidyon Ben, you also have to do because 5 sela is worth 20 dinners, which is the 20 that was used that they collected for selling Yosef. Rav Pinchas b'Shem Rav Levi Fisha Machru B'chor Shel Rachel B'Esrim Kesef. The nafal kol echad ve'echad me'em tiva. a tiva is 2 dinners, because if you have 10, Binyamin was not there. So you have 10 plus Yosef plus Binyamin. So the 20 was divided in by 10 into 2. So each one is 2. That's why everybody get a tiva according to that mandama that says you give a tiva. We're on Perek Vav Amud Beis. Mishnah. Moiser Shkolim Chulin. So we said above that according to Beis Hillel, if you designated money and you had leftover money, it's Chulin. What about you set aside money to buy a mincha? Moiser Asir Sa'efa, right? A tenth of an ephah, which is the flour, the amount of flour that you need for a mincha. And Moiser Kone Zavin, you have to bring a pair of birds if you have zivus, if you're male, or Kone Zavis if you're female. Kone Yoldes, a chatas and an ola pair of birds if you're lettuce. Or you chatas vashamas, or you were supposed to bring a chatas and osham and you have extra money. Moiser Nedava, the extra money goes to buy olos. The olos were offered on the mizbeach when the mizbeach, nobody was using the mizbeach. They never wanted to have the mizbeach just sit quietly. They always needed karbonos called kitza mizbeach. Says the Mishnah, Zeh klal, kol shu ba l'shem chatas mishum hashama, any korban that's brought for some kind of guilt, moiser nedava. However, moiser oila, an oil is not brought, an oil is a nedava, is a donative offering. So any leftover money goes la'oila, to buy other oilers. Moiser mincha, if you're collecting money that you're going to buy flour for mincha, then that extra money should go lemincha. And moiser shlamim, you're going to set aside money and you set aside too much, so that extra money should go to buy another shlamim. What about moiser pesach? You set aside money to buy korban pesach. You have extra money. L'shlamim, like we know, a moiser pesach is a shlamim. If you leave over a pesach until after pesach, you can offer it as a shlamim. Moiser nazirim, if a nazir collects money to buy his korbanos, the extra money is l'nazir. Moiser nazir, that's if you have a group of nazir. If you have one nazir, the extra money is l'nadava. On Rav Yossi, Adana Tamon, Shamis called Rav Yehuda Shal Shmuel. They heard Rav Yehuda asking Shmuel, Hifra shiklu v'meis. A person separated his shekel, then he died. What do you do with the money? Amar le'yiplu nadava. It goes into the box to buy these community olos, which were used for kitzah mizbech. Moiser ha'afiris, moiser asir sa'efa shalom. Let's say a Kohen Gadol who's going to bring a mincha, set aside money. Now, mincha's kohen is completely offered to the mizbeach. Nobody eats it. So extra money, Rabbi Yochanan says, Yolich and Livam Melech. Nobody can benefit from it, just like a Kohen Gadol who brings his mincha chavit and he doesn't benefit from it. So too, any extra money has to be thrown into the Dead Sea, which is a symbol that it goes for nothing. However, Rav Lezer, Rav Yiplon Adava, Smachloikas, Rav Yochanan, Rav Lezer, he says that extra money can be used to buy these olos. Now, Masnisam Pliga Rav Yochanan, the Mishnah we just quoted, we just learned, goes against Rav Yochanan. Because what did it say? Moiser Shkolim Chulin, Moiser Asir Sa'efa, Moiser Konizavim, Moiser Konizavim, Chazas Moiser Nedava. Now, one of the things that are mentioned are the Asir Sa'efa. So, Asir Sa'efa is a mincha. And if it goes l'nedava, what does Rabbi Yochanan do? He said it should go to Yam HaMelech. Ma'avad la Rabbi Yochanan. What does Rabbi Yochanan do with that Mishnah? Passerla explains it that Moises are sisa efa shel minchas choyte shel kol Yisrael. It's not referring to the minchas of the Kohen Gadol that Enochanami is burned. There are times where a person will have to bring a mincha. For example, a korban oil of v'yoyred. For example, a person is tamei, doesn't know he's tamei, walks to the base of Mikdash. That is an example of a sliding scale chatas. If he has a lot of money, brings an animal. If he doesn't have enough money, brings two pairs of birds. Two birds. If he's dollar bedalas, he brings a mincha. So a minchas chote, that is an example of which is used for l'nadava. But any leftover of the Kohen Gadol brings a mincha, and a chanami would go to the Yam HaMelech. Rabbi Yosi Oimar al da alil ababar. On this point, Abba Bar Baba commented, Inun Amrin, Minayin Shah Pesach Mishtan L'Shem Shlamim. You have an animal, somebody designated to be a Korban Pesach, and it was slaughtered before the time of slaughtering the Pesach. And he actually had in mind it should be a Shlamim. Therefore, the Korban becomes a Shlamim. Mishtana means it changed. How do we know this? Talmud Loimar. The iminat son korbanol is zevach shlamim. Kol shuminat son bar shlamim. And since a korban pesach comes from tzon, it can also at some times have a designation as a shlamim. However, Rav Oven asked, "Hayizvun, is that so? Hare oila minat son, but olas also comes from tzon. Dover sheina ba ela minat son yatzis. So that's not a kasha." Because we see that the leftover money for an ola doesn't go for a shlamim, it goes for an ola. So the Gemara answers, davar sheina ba'elam minat son, yatzis ola shiba afilu min habakar. A korban pesach can only come from sheep, but an ola can be brought from cows. So I use v'narei asham. How come it said in our previous Mishnah, if you bring an asham, you have leftover money, we bring it for an ola. But if you're going to say that anything that can come from tzon can turn into a shlamim, what about an asham? Amar Avun Bar Chanan minat tzon, davar shuba mikolat tzon. Tzon refers to both sheep and goats. An asham can only come from a ram, which is a type of sheep, not from a goat. So you know what kind of animal, you know what kind of korban can be transferred to a shlamim? A pesach, because it comes from every type of tzon, sheep and goats. To exclude an asham that cannot be designated as shlamim if it's moiser, because it cannot come from all of the tzon, it does not come from a goat. Now, how come normally when it says min, it's an exclusion? And here you included things from the word min. Because we included the iminat son korbanot zevach shlamim, the min included the Pesach. But that's normally not the way Chazal darshan min. Min. Here also, when it comes to the Korban Pesach, the min is being lamayit, it's excluding. For example, miut she'eino ba ben shtei shamim. A Korban Pesach has to be less than 1 year old. It can't be brought in its second year of life. Or miut, if there's a miut she'eino ba ben nekeva, you only can bring a male, a goat or sheep as a Korban Pesach. You can't bring a female. So there is a miut. Elim are also excluded because it only comes from Elim. And then Hayizvun v'aksiv v'iminat son korbano min aksavim o min ha'izim la'ola. So me'ata moisra pesach ba'ola. Why don't we say that an extra pesach or money left over could go in an ola, not shlamim? So the problem is an ola is not eaten. A shlamim is eaten and a pesach is eaten. So we would rather have the pesach end up as a shlamim, which is something that is eaten. We don't change over a pesach to an ola, which is not eaten, it's completely burned. A korban ola is kodshe kodshim. Both a pesach and a shlamim are kodshe kalim. So we would rather keep the korban pesach in the same category as kodshim kalim. rather than the Emishanin Kochim Kalam Hashem Kochim Kochim. Rav Yochanan Omer Alda Olu Rav Chanina. On this point, Rav Chanina made the following comment: the Inun Amin Eina Pesach Mishtan L'Shem Shlamim. We said that before we made a statement that a korban Pesach only changes its designation. El Imkin Shachtul L'Shem Shlamim. We said that the person had to shecht the animal and have in mind it should be a shlamim. Va'ani oimer afilu shachtul l'shem oila. I say that if I take a korban Pesach and a week before Pesach I shecht it and I have in mind l'shem oila, it will also be a shlamim. Omer Rabbeinu Talmid Rabbi Yochanan is imin atzon korbanol zevach shlamim. Kol shehu zevach bo shlamim. Anything that is this extra korbano teaches me that if a korban pesach is shechted for any kind of type of other kodshim, it also is brought as a shlom. Now, does that mean mishtanel machshavas psul? Let's say the person shechted it with some kind of bad machshava, like chutz lizmano or chutz limkomo. Does Rav Yochanan go so far to say that a korban pesach could be a shlomim even if it was some kind of bad machshava? Hey chavida, how would he have done it? If he had in mind that it should be an ola, on the condition that I would throw the blood tomorrow. Now, even though it might not be pigul, because remember, any change in the four avoidos, which would not make it kosher, but mikol pasalu, it would still be puzzle. It wouldn't be a shlamim. And im Torah mishtal machshavas psul pigul, im Torah mishtal machshavas psul puzzle pigul. So what are you going to tell me? It doesn't become pigul? If so, his statement that no matter what you have in mind, it'll always become a shlamim is not borne out by this. Now, lishmo v'shalo lishmo b'shar yemos hashana. What if he shechted the korban pesach with a combination of lishmo and shalo lishmo, let's say either after Pesach or before Pesach? So it doesn't have a proper shame. So if somebody was silent, you didn't specify exactly what you're thinking of, then echanami would be a shlamim. So lishmo v'shalo lishmo is like shtika. If that's the case, let's say you shechted it l'shem Pesach, but you had in mind to do the zrika l'shem, let's say shlamim. Let his first action be like a combination of l'shmo v'shloshmo, which he said was like shtika. V'yeh kosher, and it would be a kosher as a shlamim. Mary man no shtika kosher. Yeah, are we going to say that if he was silent, it's a kosher dika Pesach, or if he's silent, maybe it would be a puzzle dika Pesach, because he had a combination of machshavas l'shmo v'shalo l'shmo. Okay, we'll stop here. By Daf Doc.
Okay.
Tomorrow morning, 8:00.
Okay, shkoyach.
Okay.
8:00.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Good night.
Good night.
Johnny,